Have you ever looked at a security camera and just kind of thought, how hard can that really be? Well, today we're going to see that the difference between a system that dies in a year and one that lasts a decade, well, it's not in the camera you can see, but in all the hidden craftsmanship you can't.
This quote from our source material just gets right to the heart of it. A trunk slammer, that's the industry slang for an amateur installer, the kind working out of their car just trying to get the job done as fast as possible. And this quote argues that the real test of a professional isn't the pretty camera on the wall, but the neat, organized, and most importantly, serviceable heart of the system, the back of the rack.
And this really boils it all down, doesn't it? On one side, you've got the get it done now approach, and on the other, you have the build it to last philosophy. You're going to see that every single decision we're about to look at, from how you wrap a cable to how you click a mouse, falls into one of these two camps. It's all about solving today's problem versus preventing tomorrow's headache.
So, where does this professional craftsmanship actually begin? You might be surprised. It's not with the camera. It starts right here, at the system's central nervous system, the equipment rack. This is the foundation that everything else is built on.
When it comes to managing all those cables, a pro follows 3 simple but totally non-negotiable rules. And this isn't just about making things look neat. No, each one of these steps is a deliberate defense against future chaos, saving hours of work and, let's be honest, a ton of money down the line.
First up is this thing called the service loop, and it's a perfect example of professional foresight. It costs nothing but a few extra seconds of time, but as we're about to see, this simple little coil of extra cable is an absolute lifesaver.
So why is this extra slack such a game changer? Okay, picture this. It's 5 years from now, a connector fails, or maybe the equipment just needs to be moved a few inches. With that service loop, you've got plenty of slack to make a quick, easy repair. But without it, you could be looking at the absolute nightmare of running a brand new cable all the way through the walls and ceilings again. See? It's the ultimate example of planning ahead.
This meticulous labeling is another huge tell of a pro. They don't just slap a label on the cable at the camera. Nope. They label where it plugs into the patch panel, which is kind of like a switchboard for all the cameras. And they even label the short little cord that connects it to the network switch. Why all the fuss? So that any technician, years from now, can walk in and understand the entire system's wiring in minutes, not hours. It just completely eliminates all the guesswork.
All right, let's move out from the rack to the camera itself, out there on the front lines. Now, out here, the #1 enemy of any piece of electronics is relentless, it's destructive, and it is everywhere: water. A pro knows you can't fight gravity, so instead, they make it an ally. The simple U shape in the cable is called a drip loop. It's so clever. It forces any rainwater to follow the cable down to the very lowest point and just drip harmlessly away, instead of funneling it directly into the camera's sensitive electronics. It's an incredibly simple trick that prevents a very, very expensive failure.
But it's not just rain. A pro also tightens that little rubber grommet, not just for water, but to stop spiders from nesting inside and shorting everything out. And you know that little silica packet that comes in the box? An amateur just throws it away. A pro knows to put it inside the camera housing to soak up any stream moisture and keep the lens from fogging up on a humid day.
Just mounting the camera on the wall is only the beginning. An amateur might pack up and call it a day, but a professional knows the real work is making sure that camera captures the right image, perfectly framed and perfectly focused.
Using a live view on their phone, the pro goes through a very precise procedure. First, they use a level to straighten the horizon, because a crooked image is just disorienting and looks totally unprofessional. Then, they zoom in to meet the operational requirement, which is a fancy way of saying they focus on the specific doorway you need to watch, not just the whole general area. And here's a key detail. They force the camera to autofocus after the plastic dome is back on, because believe it or not, that tiny layer of plastic is enough to throw off a perfect focus.
Now, this slide points to one of the most common failures you see in security footage. We've all seen it, right? Someone walks in from the bright outdoors, and they immediately become this useless, dark silhouette. You can't identify them at all. So how does a pro solve this? A pro solves this with a single click in the camera settings. They turn on a feature called Wide Dynamic Range, or WDR. You can think of it like digital magic. The camera essentially takes 2 pictures at the exact same time, one for the dark areas and one for the bright areas, and then it merges them into one perfectly balanced image. That silhouette, it suddenly becomes a clearly identifiable person.
Okay, so this is a crucial point. The installation is not finished just because the tools are packed up. The job isn't done until the pro can prove, without a shadow of a doubt, that the system works exactly like it's supposed to. This final check is called commissioning, or sometimes the walk test. The installer literally walks in front of each camera, waves their hand, and then goes back to the recorder to make sure it actually recorded the motion. They'll mask out things like swaying trees that could cause tons of false alarms. And they make sure the system's clock is synced to the correct time, a detail that is absolutely critical if that footage ever needs to be used as legal evidence. And finally, getting paid isn't just about sending an invoice. For a professional, it's about delivering a complete, documented package to the client that explains every single part of the job they just did. This as-built package is the final mark of a true professional. It's got floor plans showing exactly where every camera is, a spreadsheet with all the serial numbers for easy asset tracking, and a sheet of day-one snapshots from every camera. This documentation makes sure the client knows exactly what they paid for and gives a perfect baseline for any future troubleshooting.
A professional's job isn't really done until the client feels empowered. They don't just hand over the keys and walk away. They give a quick 15-minute training on the 3 functions that matter most: how to find an event, how to play it back, and how to export a copy. This simple step is what turns a piece of technology into a tool the client can actually use.
So, the next time you see a security camera, maybe you'll see more than just a piece of hardware. Maybe you'll see the evidence of some hidden craftsmanship, or the lack of it. Because true quality, in pretty much any field, isn't just about the finished product you see. It's about all those thoughtful, invisible details that make sure it works perfectly for years to come. That's the craft that truly matters.